Yeah, speaking of knockouts, we've got a heavyweight matchup headlining this UFC event between Alexander Volkov and Cyril Gane. And I'm going to say it right off the bat. This fight is for the number one contender position at heavyweight. Whoever wins this fight should get a title shot. I know Derek Lewis is scheduled to fight next. I know Stipe's in there, and I'm very intrigued what a trilogy with Ngannou looks like if he puts on mass, as I believe he wants to. But bracket all that aside, these are two of the most interesting striking contenders in the heavyweight division. Both been on a bit of a tear recently, and I love this matchup so much, and maybe it's just because of how much I love it that I want to see the winner get a title shot. But nonetheless, I think the winner will be on a winning streak, will have cleared through the top of the division, and there's nowhere left to go but fight for the belt after you win a matchup like this. Because in their last couple of fight wins, both fighters have been near flawless offensively and defensively. Defensively, for certain, maybe you can nitpick a little at Cyril Gane's offense, but that's what happens when you're a really, really solid defensive fighter and you're fighting guys who can knock you out if you screw up for half a second. Just ask Alexander Volkov about how that goes when he fought Curtis Blade. Excuse me, not Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis. So this fight, I feel like it's going to really be won or lost by who can walk the other guy and put their back against the cage the most. That's where each fighter does their best work. I think Volkov has had a little more success landing heavy out in the open, though you could maybe argue Alistair Overeem at 40 plus isn't the best test of that, and that Gane would have done similar. Regardless, I think just whoever is able to get the other guy backing up more and move forward is going to win, because that's what each fighter's been doing in their last couple of wins. With Volkov, you had against Walt Harris and Alistair Overeem. The Overeem fight was just a bulldozing, like steamrolled over him, walked forward, threw as soon as he got to the center of the cage, and never really took a step back, never stopped throwing. And it was just a matter of connecting with the right shot and staying patient enough. And you saw a lot of really great things from Volkov. The cage cutting was phenomenal. No, I don't want to make it sound too easy or put too much disrespect on the name of Alistair Overeem, because not that many months before, he fought a very similar style of fight to get a win over Augusto Sakai. But the shelling, the patience, all those things really hurt Overeem, because Volkov was happy to walk forward, throw. The 1-2 for him was landing all night, and it was just a matter of finding the right one. The Harris fight, probably a little more competitive, but similarly flawless victory, also a second round finish. What Volkov's size is just such a huge advantage in that he can figure out a range where you can't hit him and he can hit you. And once he finds that range, it's just about staying there, moving forward, threatening with it, keeping the opponent backing up when they try and escape back to the circle, cutting off the cage. And he does all that really, really well. His huge frame I mentioned, because these two actually, I think, have the same reach. It's really hard to know until you see them in the cage. The UFC has screwed up their reach plenty of times before, so I'm not entirely certain on this, but I can be reasonably sure that Volkov's legs at 6'7" will be longer than the 6'4" Cyril Gane's, and I think that's going to be huge. He uses the leg kick really well to, if a fighter's trying to escape on an angle, to take them off that. He also throws a lot of front kicks. You saw that one to the body set up the finish against Walt Harris. I'm really curious how that's going to work out, because Cyril Gane, very Muay Thai based karate style, where he stands very vertical to the opponent, same as a Wonder Boy or a Conor McGregor. And that allows for really quick vertical movement, but can slow down the lateral movement a bit. So if he gets the straight shots of Volkov, if he can set them up, are going to land heavy if Gane isn't careful about his footwork. But you can't say that that's what you expect, because he's been incredibly careful every second of his career inside the UFC octagon thus far. And like I said at the beginning, defensively flawless, really. There hasn't been a moment where you've thought he's in trouble thus far. What it is he is more mobile than his opponents and has a reach advantage over his opponents. So likewise to Volkov, he finds that he's always at a point where he can hit his opponents, but his opponents can't really hit him. It's a lot more mobility than size when you look at how he does that. The switching stances, he will like adjust his footwork to move laterally, popping in and out with a jab a lot, left hand and right hand. All of that, especially the southpaw jab, I feel like could really get him into trouble against Volkov. But he was able to dart in and out against Rosenstrike, who has, I'd say, much scarier one-punch knockout power than Volkov, especially a lot of counter hooks he'll throw. So he showed phenomenal timing and knowing when he can dart in and out on that jab. But I think I'm going with Volkov on this one. And the reason I think that is Volkov isn't that one punch knockout artist that Rosenstrike is. He has to chain together his knockouts with like cumulative blows. So he's a lot more comfortable throwing the 1-2, missing, and finding a way to keep pressing forward and keep chaining strikes together to try and get his opponent into a worse position. Whereas with Rosenstrike, it's been a lot more in his knockouts about that just athletic explosion, and the opponent has no idea what hit them. So I see Gane coming out, trying to come forward, testing with the jab. Volkov not really moving back. That's what you saw against Walt Harris. He lets his head movement get him out of trouble, so he can stay in range to throw and then get his opponent moving back. And once they start moving back, he walks them forward. I think Drago is an awesome nickname for that style. The 1-2s chain together, the front kicks, the leg kicks, mix it up really well. Once the opponent's back against the cage, the 1-2s come nonstop. If Gane was going to win this, it would be, I think, off a counter, off a sloppy 1-2. I think he'll mostly be moving vertically, but like a quick lateral explosion inside outside on a sloppy 1-2 from Volkov could give Gane a really good counter opportunity. I'm really curious what the reach advantage looks like. I don't think the stats the UFC gives really ever give you a good sense of what that's going to be. Volkov a giant though, so you know just size-wise he's going to be bigger. But a fight that will probably start slow, and then I think it's going to be how does Volkov set the pace, because Gane stays pretty consistent. It's like I said at the start, whoever's moving forward is almost certainly who's going to win this fight, barring a one-shot knockout. And looking at their last couple of fights, seeing that Gane hasn't had to deal with anyone who's got a bigger reach than him, seeing how good Volkov has been at cage cutting. Again, Gane hasn't had to deal with Dos Santos, Rosenstrike. Those aren't experts in like slowly setting up the cage cutting to trap you against. He hasn't really had to deal with his back against the fence. He shows great awareness and not letting it get there. But it's been a better a chess player against checkers players so far, and I think he's going up against a chess master this time. So I've got Alexander Volkov by knockout at some point. I'm going to say third round. Looking forward to this UFC main event.